Domestic violence affects roughly 10 million people every year in the United States, according to the National Library of Medicine. And this is one reason why Mercyhealth brings healthcare workers together to raise awareness on this epidemic.
WIFR reporter Anthony Ferretti talks with advocates who want to give a voice to domestic violence survivors.
Tonight's event, called This Hits Home, Breaking the Silence, offers a safe space for survivors and how healthcare providers can get those patients the assistance they need to cope with the trauma domestic violence can bring.
We want our community to know that we see you, we hear you, we want to be here for you.
Roughly 75 healthcare workers and organizations come together to learn more about how they can positively impact the lives of domestic violence survivors.
If we recognize something in a patient, we can feel more empowered to take that first step and introduce all the different programs and opportunities they have in the community for support.
The evening starts with a screening of This Hits Home, a documentary that brings together survivors and workers taking action to end this epidemic.
His thing was slamming me against the wall by my head, by holding my throat.
A panel discussion on domestic violence followed, including insight on how to identify the signs and where to get help.
Anything that we're doing, we need to take into consideration the safety risks and how to mitigate those risks. And so this is just one way of spreading awareness and education about it.
They do talk with the patients, but a lot of times we are not in the room with them, so we're not for sure what resources they are giving them.
Renfro says this is why Thursday's event is so important.
I think this is going to be really helpful to let people know that they're not alone and that they can speak out and then that they can trust their providers, because our job is to provide the best care for them.
Mercyhealth also sold T-shirts which say it's not okay. They encourage those who have one to wear them for Domestic Violence Awareness Day on October 17th.
Thank you, Anthony. And one of the panelists was a person sharing their domestic violence story for the first time.